And we are back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Huge shout out to all the STEM enthusiasts, the STEM students, STEM professionals. This is your Blackest STEM platform, the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture. We do our best to highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We have an awesome, awesome, awesome show for you tonight. We have Sister Dr. Christina Parks, a doctor of cellular and molecular biology, going to talk to us this evening about the biological warfare problem. Now, I want you all to strap in, put your thinking caps on, like, comment, and share with everyone you know. We're going to be talking about a number of things, namely being discrimination according to inoculation status, as well as a series of other things pertaining to inoculation and cellular and molecular biology. Tune in for more after this, family. Let's get it.
Believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science.
Awesome. As the homie Pat Pooh said, on here on the platform of the STEM Files, we teach men, women, children heavy science. I am your humble co-host, Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrilian Engineer. I'm a civilian mechanical engineer for the United States Navy with a focus on naval ship fluid systems. I have a technical background in material science and engineering, the study of the various material classes, how they can utilize for various applications. I am joined by the awesome, illustrious, the wonderful, the charismatic sister, Dr. Joy. Talk to us, Queen.
Praise be to Allah. Assalamu alaikum, family. I'm Sister Dr. Joy 2X. I am also known as the Chi Mechanic, and I've been studying and practicing traditional Chinese medicine for ongoing of 13 years. And in traditional Chinese medicine, we understand that the body innately knows and desires how to heal itself. So the medicine I offer here is to assist you on that journey like a mechanic for your vital energy.
I love that last part, mechanic for your vital energy. We need to put that on a shirt. Lastly, and certainly not least, my big little bro. I'm his right hand. He's my, well, however you want to say it. Our brother Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. He's a biomedical research scientist with a background in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. Our dear brother is here in spirit, as he has a very important family matter to take care of, but he is here in the form of questions as well as other things. So without further ado, family, we can talk forever, but this show is not about us, it's about who we bring on and allow to share with us who they are, what their technical background is, and really educate us in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So without further ado, I want to bring on our sister, our doctor, Christina Parks. How are you, Queen? And welcome to the STEM Files.
Excellent. I'm honored to be on. I know we could chat forever, right? I've talked to Dr. Joy and we had to let's hang up the phone. And now I've got a bunch of questions for you. I'm not even thinking about what you're going to ask me. I'm like, oh, I wonder if he knows about such and such. So
awesome.
But isn't that what made us scientists, that we're constantly curious about things?
Absolutely. So before we go any further, we're going to get ready to read our sister's bio and get into it, but just want to remind everyone where you can find us, right? So we are, right, at Tariq Cardiac, at Jabrilian_engineer, and at the Chi Mechanic on Instagram, also at the STEM Files on all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to the Voice of STEM Talent in Black culture. So now, without further ado, Sister Dr. Joy, would you do us the honor of reading our beloved guest bio, and let's get into it.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum again. So this is Sister Dr. Christina Parks. She received her Ph.D. in cellular and molecular biology from the University of Michigan. She's garnered significant attention for her testimony, which was fire, on Michigan HB 4471, which sought to ban discrimination based on inoculation status. Her testimony challenged the assumption that the COVID inoculation prevent transmission and excoriated vaccine mandate supports for supporting a return to racial segregation, since 70% of African Americans are refusing the COVID jab and will be excluded from education and the workforce. So welcome,
Right.
welcome, welcome. So much to unpack. I'm so excited for this episode.
Absolutely. So y'all know what we talking about. So first off, let me put it forward. Nobody scared on this platform, okay?
That's right.
So we have things in place. You'll be able to access this, but we're gonna talk heavy here. And I told Sister Dr. Christina before we even got on to go ahead and say what's on her heart to say. So without further ado, just please go ahead and give us anything additional, and then we'll get right into our discourse for this evening.
Yes, sir. Was there something else like about my background you wanted me to share, or
Anything? So let's start. I know you mentioned too. I think I like this. So let's start with going into your doctorate. And as you so eloquently told me, the actual degree is Doctor of Cellular and Molecular Biology, correct? So can you unpack that? What is that, and why is that what you chose to pursue?
right? And that's super important because I actually do a lot of expert testimony for court cases. And so what I'm an expert on is super relevant to my credentials to evaluate what has been going on over the last 4 years. So first of all, I have an undergraduate in molecular biology and biochemistry, a double major with honors in organic chemistry. So, and in that degree, we did have to take classes like biophysical chemistry. So it's not a lightweight degree. So I spent 4 years getting that degree, and then I went on to the University of Michigan, where I got my Ph.D. in cellular and molecular biology, and that was an 8-year degree. So it took me 12 years to get. They're clapping because I'm still here. I didn't decide to just go pick up cans and make 10 cents at a time at the side of the road because I considered it many times.
Right.
But biochemistry is about all the reactions inside your body. Cellular biology is the biology of the cell. How do our cells work? How do they form our tissues? And how do they produce the proteins, the hormones, and stuff that we need to function? Molecular biology is quite different. Molecular biology is how you can engineer and understand genetic information. So it is kind of a mad scientist kind of degree of how to cut and paste DNA and RNA, to do gene therapy, to alter people's DNA, to make pseudoviruses. I learned how to do that. So technically, the people making this inoculation would hire someone with my degree in order to do this. So when I was in school in the early to mid 90s, gene therapy was all the rage. In fact, we had some people at University of Michigan who were highly, Jeffrey Chamberlain was really studying muscular dystrophy there. And so his wife was in my degree program. So we were studying it, and we were also studying the problems with it, and we were studying the ethical problems with it. It was a huge deal. You don't hear about gene therapy anymore. There's a reason. It didn't work. It caused so severe inflammation and anaphylaxis that one guy, I think he was 18, Jesse Geslinger, actually died. And I believe that was the platform that the AstraZeneca inoculation was formulated on. And so then they went to look at lipid nanoparticles, but they found that they were just as inflammatory. And so they just couldn't get over this problem of inflammation and anaphylactic-like reactions. And so when they went to use it for inoculations, they thought, well, we don't have to put in as much. Because remember, the goals of gene therapy are to get in as much product as you can, get it into as many cells as you can, and get it expressed for as long as you can, because you're trying to create a protein for something that was defective, like you're trying to replace a defective protein. And there's no need at all to do that in order to create an immune response, to make the body react against like a virus or something. So for that purpose, it's completely inappropriate. Completely inappropriate. I can talk about some of the reasons why I believe they went to this platform. But the point is that my degree in molecular biology is totally salient and relevant to this conversation, makes me an expert. I also did my work in protein signaling in the immune system, immune signaling, cytokine signaling, in the labs of Dr. Jessica Schwartz and Dr. Kristen Carter-Sue. And you'll see now, if you want to shut down all this immunity, autoimmunity and stuff, they're giving people JAK inhibitors and JAK2 inhibitors. That's what I worked on. So if I wanted to go in industry and work on that, it takes about 40 years for what we learned there to actually come to fruition. So it's really interesting to see all these JAK inhibitors on the market. So my degree, highly relevant to what's going on with this.
Brings me to a lot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, listen, Sister Dr. Joy.
You just keep going back and forth. It doesn't matter who starts. It does not matter who starts.
Listen, did y'all hear? Some of y'all have been rocking with me. Y'all heard what my background is, right? So I'm sitting here absorbing because I'm an engineer, right? Okay. So I think I'm a smart guy, but everything Sister Dr. Christina Parks is saying, it's not my wheelhouse. So I'm sitting here like a student. I'm all that. So yeah, so many terms. Sister Dr. Joy, go ahead, please lead us off with some questions. Let's get into everything that we're talking about this evening.
Praise be to Allah. Topic of discussion: biowarfare problem. So let's start kind of from the beginning, just like brass tacks, like what's a protein? What does it signal? Kind of like walk us through, you know, the ABCs of this first, just to give some building blocks of like, what are they working with and why does this matter?
Okay, so let's talk about one, what is a traditional inoculation versus experimental gene therapy? And honestly, I have been doing a lot of research into the childhood schedule and
I was just looking at it.
Problematic that was. And so when this came out and they came in with this whole, we're going to inoculate our way out of this, which I didn't believe could be done. And I thought, okay, what are they going to try to push on us, right? And at that time, they're saying, oh, it'll never be mandatory, blah, 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 blah. Right. And when I saw what they were, and this information is proprietary theoretically because it's from these companies. So it was really hard to get the actual data to see exactly what they're giving us because they didn't really want you to know. Right. But when we looked at it, it was the adenoviral vector platform, which Jesse Geslinger succumbed to, and you know, and it was a lipid nanoparticle platform. Both of those were clearly experimental gene therapy. There was no doubt about it, not a shred of doubt. They were arguing that in the press. There was never any doubt about it. My jaw dropped. Such a dangerous technology that they told people that if you got experimental gene therapy, you could never have unprotected sex. And here we are giving it to billions of people. In fact, in the clinical trials, they told them they couldn't have sex. Yeah, definitely could not get pregnant. Like, do not try to get pregnant. Anecdotally, and hopefully this gets written up, I talked to a gynecologist that said women who had sex with vaccinated men, and the women were, hopefully I don't catch that, with men who are inoculated, and they themselves were uninoculated. Many of them were almost hemorrhaging to death. So because this spike protein is so severely inflammatory. So let me back up and tell you how this is different than a traditional inoculation. So a traditional inoculation, you might take a small portion of the protein that is part of the virus and just inject it, a very, very tiny portion. So even if the body reacts to that, and occasionally people do have very serious reactions, and people know I'm not a big pusher of inoculations, but still, there's only a tiny portion of that protein. And so after the body has reacted to it, the body can then recover. And then the body mounts an immune response. And hopefully that immune response primes it so that when it sees the pathogen, the virus or the bacteria, it attacks it. So that's the idea. This is completely different than that. Right. What they are injecting is a pseudovirus. It's like a man-made virus. However, it cannot replicate in the body theoretically. Okay. Super complicated science. Trying to explain it can be pretty complicated. But what it does do is this pseudovirus basically sends genetic information to your cells. They told you it would stay in the arm. They knew that wasn't true. Yeah. These lipid nanoparticles are like fat, and they go everywhere in the body, and they accumulate in the fatty tissues, which is going to be possibly your breast tissue, the fat on the heart, the ovaries are highly fatty, your bone marrow, where you make all of your immune cells, and your blood cells is where it accumulates. Your adrenal glands, which really regulate your whole balance of hormones and stress hormones, super critical. And people are having huge issues with their adrenal glands because this is accumulating in those tissues. And Pfizer's own data show that. They knew that before they did anything with this.
Right.
So it's taking this genetic material all over the body. And once it's delivered inside cells, it is instructions. It's genetic material, in this case RNA, that tells the cells to make a protein. What protein are they making? What they should have done is had it made one tiny part of the spike protein, some innocuous part of it, right? That it can bind to and then signal an immune response, but not create any problems. And the thing is, they had actually been studying these coronaviruses for a couple of decades.
Right.
So this isn't like they were like, it's a novel virus. What a novel virus means is that our bodies haven't seen it. It wasn't novel to them. They've been studying it for decades. It's novel because our bodies haven't seen it. And so it can create a higher level of sickness versus something that we see flu every single year, right? Our bodies are used to that. Our bodies were not used to this particular kind of virus. But so they could have done that. But instead, all four platforms, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, J&J, and Moderna, used the full-length intact spike protein, which was slightly altered from the wild type. Why would they use the whole protein when that is what caused all of the most of the deleterious effects of COVID? Highly inflammatory, highly toxic, and now you have put that genetic information into a ton of your cells and told them to make a toxic, viral, inflammatory protein that is foreign. So when you were doing experimental gene therapy trying to help someone, you would have them making a human protein, and the goal was to make a protein that the body would never attack because you want it to replace a defective protein. In this case, you're making a foreign viral protein. What's going to happen when your cells start making a foreign viral protein? Your body's going to think they're infected with a virus. And they're going to attack and kill the cells. So now all of these cells who are making this protein, first of all, the protein is highly inflammatory. It screws up the signaling of all of the cells in the entire body. And then the cells are making this protein and they're going to be attacked by the immune system. And so the work of Dr. Ryan Cole actually showed that. So for many people, you're supposed to inject this into the tissue, in which case then it goes to the lymph and then it will eventually go to the blood. If it gets closer to one of the major blood vessels, it may have a more direct route into the blood. And so in some people, it probably got into the circulatory system quicker. And you have a major vein going right up the middle of your chest called the vena cava. And it kind of, terms, and then you have your aorta, which goes to the rest of the body. And the aorta has an arch. And so what they think is happening is these lipid nanoparticles are actually accumulating in this arch of your aorta and being taken up by the cells there. And then they were being attacked by your immune system. And the immune cells were eating and killing all of the cells that were making the spike protein. And it actually perforated, like created little holes all in the aorta until the aorta, it's called an aortic dissection, until the aorta, like, you have the perforations on your paper where you can now rip it, until the pressure from your heart beating basically ripped the aorta, which had been perforated by the immune cells, eating these cells that were making the spike protein because they were attacking it because they thought it was foreign. And then the aorta just split. This happened to one of the doctors who was speaking out about the inoculations. His father, who was completely healthy, running marathons and things like that, had an aortic dissection. So they took that tissue and had it looked under, and they could see where those cells were expressing the spike protein. They stained it for it, and where it was perforated. And so they started looking, and they were seeing this again and again and again, where the body is attacking and killing the cells that are expressing this protein because it looks to the body like an infection.
Wow. So as I'm listening, this is me, correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing is genetically engineered autoimmune response or autoimmune disease, where now you have too much of a protein being created, and now, as opposed to regulated cell death or thing that's in balance, it's killing everything. Your body's killing everything. So now in excess. So now you're literally over time, you're just losing everything and slowly but surely dying, really, due to this decision that was made and
Right.
this
So
inoculation.
there's something that you said that was very interesting. You were saying it's an excess immune response. So now the body is sort of attacking all of its own cells. And the body is kind of gets freaked out. They're like, you shouldn't be attacking your own body. Like it kind of knows
Right.
that, right?
Mhm.
And so it wants to do something. So when this gets kind of out of control, one of the defense mechanisms of the body is to start to shut down the immune system. Great idea, right? Because it doesn't want these T cells, they're called killer T cells. It doesn't want these T cells to attack and destroy all of its own cells. And so it tells them to stand down. It's called T cell exhaustion or T cell anergy. Well, your T cells do two really important things. They destroy pathogens such as viruses and bacteria, fungus, and they destroy cancer cells.
Mm.
So if they're told to stand down so that they don't destroy the body, first of all, you're going to get everything that comes along the pike, and then you're going to spread it. So many of the people who are inoculated, their immune systems are shot. So whenever whatever comes, whether it's the flu or the latest variant or even a bacteria, they're going to be super spreaders. Because usually when your immune system is strong, let's say I have a viral respiratory infection, my immune system is still going to kill like 99% of the virus. It's just not going to get out. So I might be breathing out like, I don't know, 100 viruses a minute or something. Let's just say, I don't know, like I'm not a virologist. But if they don't have an immune system, it's not killing that virus. And so they're going to make a ton of virus in their nose and throat. And if you're sitting next to them on a plane, even if you have a healthy immune system, you're getting a ton of virus or a ton of bacteria, it's probably going to make you sick. Right? Because whether you get sick or how sick you get is largely dependent on how much you are exposed to. And so whatever is going around, we have this whole population of immunocompromised people who are going to be spreading it, and we're all going to be subjected to it, like it or not. And we've seen that this year. There's just been round and round. I've heard many complaints, whether it's from parents of school-age children or other people. Just every month, everybody's got something different. Nobody's not even sure what it is. And part of that, it doesn't really matter what it is because we've got these immunocompromised people who are super spreaders of whatever it is because their immune system isn't doing anything with it. The second thing is these cancer cells. So people don't realize that your body makes aberrant cancer cells every day. Your immune system destroys them. Children typically, before the childhood schedule, had really, really strong immune systems. And they did not get cancer because they would just destroy all those cancer cells as soon as they came around. Once your immune system is compromised and your T cells are no longer active, they are one of the main cells that destroys cancerous cells. So what happens is a lot of times, like, you know, you hear about people getting a cancer diagnosis, and I would probably be the same way, and they freak out. Most likely, that group of cells has been growing in your body for 5 or 10 years. And many times it only gets a leg up when your immune system is compromised, such as like a divorce, or you're having a really hard time, right. Or maybe there is a health crisis, like, you know, from eating bad foods, or, you know, when something comes to a head and your immune system is not as strong and healthy, cannot keep that walled in or under control. Or maybe there's an additional exposure that creates additional mutations or something. But in any case, usually the immune system being somewhat compromised is necessary in order for that to proliferate and spread. Okay? So having a really healthy immune system is the best thing you can do to keep potential cancerous cells under control. So some people probably live with small cancers in their body their whole life. Right? And like they just keep it under control, or they could have it and then their body destroys it and they never knew they had it, right? But for these people who are immunocompromised, any cancer cells that they have are now going to start multiplying out of control. And practitioners are seeing this as something called turbo cancer, where, like in one case, I mean, where people go in and they open them up and there's just cancer everywhere. By the time it's diagnosed, they're dead within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And this is not typical of cancer, because usually your immune system, it's just a give and take. Your immune system's trying to keep it under control. And, you know, and so it's just this balance in the body, right? And, you know, many people talk about, and I'm looking into this, especially with regard to prostate cancer, many times the treatments are worse than the disease, the cancer
Absolutely.
itself, right? My business is called New Health Paradigms. A new paradigm would be to support the body, support the immune system, and bringing the body back into balance so that the immune system can destroy these, helping the immune system target and destroy the cancer and supporting it in doing that, instead of radiation, because radiation actually breaks DNA and it causes more mutations and causes more cancerous cells. So it's actually going to cause, it might keep you alive in the short term, but it's going to mutate some other cells or some of the cells that maybe it didn't get and create more cancerous cells in the end. So, and it's going to damage all your other cells. So, I mean, it's definitely a huge trade-off. But going back to that, so basically these people are extremely immunocompromised, and we're seeing these turbo cancers where the body is no longer keeping any kind of cancerous cells under control. We're also seeing, I know people specifically personally that have been inoculated that said they had never had an HPV diagnosis, and now they're seeing an HPV diagnosis with associated cervical cancer inside of a year. So for some context, HPV, human papillomavirus, is a human virus that infects usually the genitals. And most people clear it and they get like genital warts. You don't always get warts, but it can cause cells to proliferate and divide out of control. And if that is not taken care of, you get a pap smear, they'll find those cells and usually they'll just freeze them off and you're fine. But so you want to go and have that done. But if that virus, most people clear that virus from their cervix, from their system in 5 years, and it's not a problem. For a very small percentage, that virus can get into your cells and start causing the cells to replicate. And if nothing is done in like 20 or 30 years, you might develop cancer. But because your body keeps viruses under control, for 99% of the population, this is not an issue. However, and people who were never told they had HPV before, never had any lesions on their cervix, they're going in now, they're finding that they have HPV, that they have active virus replicating because their immune system is shot, right? There's this idea that you either have a virus or not. In reality, a lot of us have low levels of virus in our body that our immune system keeps in check. It's only when our immune system fails that these reactivate in our body. And so this is a reactivated HPV, which is really endemic in humans. And once it's reactivated, it is infecting these cervical cells, and these people are getting cervical cancer within like a year or two of taking this inoculation because their immune systems have been compromised.
Wow. So much. I hope at the very least those who are watching understand that we are at war on a number of levels.
Absolutely.
And Sister has given us very timely information that is not just useful yesterday during like the height of the pandemic. It's useful now and can be applied in and outside of a COVID paradigm or context. At this time, what we want to do before as we get into the halfway point of the show already, we want to now share a video of our sister's testimony talking about transmission of the COVID inoculations. So we're going to present that, run a little bit, and then kind of go a bit more into some context, and then we're going to actually go into our halftime commercial, if you will. So give me a quick second, we'll bring that up.
Hello, my name is Dr. Christina Parks. I received my Ph.D. in cellular and molecular biology right here in the state of Michigan from the University of Michigan Medical School. And so I'm very well versed in the science of both these mRNA, gene therapy, vaccines, this kind of technology, as well as what a vaccine is designed to do in the body, what it can do, what it can't do. And the fact that this is extremely complex science that has been oversimplified in the media to basically take away our freedom of choice. What I want to address today in this limited time is the fact that vaccine requirements and mandates are based on the faulty assumption that the vaccines in question prevent transmission of the pathogen, right? Does the vaccine for DTaP prevent transmission? No. Does the vaccine for flu prevent transmission? No. Do the vaccines for COVID prevent transmission? No. In fact, they were never designed to do that. Right? So you're asking, what about this 95% effectiveness? If you look at those clinical trials, they do not say that they prevent transmission. They expressly say that they're measuring whether they attenuate symptoms. So they're 95% effective based on their clinical trials at attenuating symptoms for the first variant, which is essentially gone in our population. Right now, the predominant variant is the Delta, and CDC Director Walensky basically said that these vaccines have no ability to prevent infection by and transmission of the Delta variant. So our policy needs not to be built on the hope of what we think something we want it to do, but what the data actually tell us. So do these viruses do the vaccines prevent the virus from infecting and replicating in the nose and nasopharynx? No. They've only been shown to prevent that replication in the lungs. They're different. The mucosa is very different than the lungs. It's very different than the blood.
All right. Awesome.
Praise be
Awesome.
to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. So there was a lot shared there. So this is Dr. Joy. If you want to go and then maybe transition to a conversation centered around transmission, but you have the floor and let's get more into this.
Praise be to Allah. Well, I actually wanted to raise a question from Brother Tariq, actually, about this. So his question to you, Sister Dr. Christina, was, what was the process like to get your voice heard before council to discuss Bill 4471? And why is it so important for members of our community to get involved in the lawmaking process?
So yeah, that's a lot. A couple of things. So it was actually trivial for me to testify for that. Someone called me and I said yes. It was just another day of work. So I had been speaking at rallies and speaking out all over West Michigan, actually. And I was highly, highly censored. If you tried to upload anything with my name on it to YouTube, it would be pulled down in a matter of seconds to minutes. No one knew who I was nationally. No one. The FBI knew, CIA knew, because I was highly censored, right? Even though no one knew who I was. So that tells you something. They knew who I was, and they knew, and I think one of the reasons I was highly censored is because I had credentials. So I would let, like, other people would post some of my speeches at rallies and stuff, and they would get their account dinged or whatever. I didn't post my own stuff because I wanted to maintain my account. So this legislator asked me to speak on this bill. So in Michigan, actually, we have 3 exemptions for inoculations. We have a medical, a religious, and a philosophical. And one of the reasons that is so is because we have some advocacy groups regarding the inoculations here in Michigan, and we have gone to educate the legislators every year for decades. And so because of that, there were actually a fair amount of legislators that were fairly educated, at least about, the ones that were somewhat open to it. So there are people, but the problem comes when actually nothing ever happened on that bill. Even before COVID, the bill had been about our medical workers having to take the flu inoculation and the DTaP inoculation mandatory, right? So it had already come before. And so nothing happened to that. But what did happen is there were several nurses that were facing mandates that were there to testify. It was a 4-hour session. So this is the kind of thing that I just did every day to try to just keep moving, just keep trying, and getting nowhere is what it felt like, and highly, highly censored. But what happened was there were some nurses there and they were like, your testimony was the bomb. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm here. I did what I was supposed to do, whatever. Then I had a homeschool mom friend who I had helped her with her son's health because our children's health is a wreck.
Shout out to the homeschoolers.
And she had watched this 4-hour testimony of all these different people. Mine was only like 6 minutes. And I was told I had like 5 minutes or something. And so that's why if I seem nervous, I'm trying to get all this information out in 5 minutes. And that actually was a good thing because then it was short enough that people would actually watch it. She actually sifted through the 4-hour testimony, found my thing, clipped it, uploaded it with just the name House Senate or House Bill 4471 without my name on it or anything. And before they could catch it, it went viral. So by the end of the week, it had like 200,000 views. And by the end of a few weeks, it had several million views. And I know that Brother Riza had found it. Somebody sent it to him or whatever. And he had posted, I didn't know any of this at the time. I knew it was going viral. He posted it on his platform and he alone got like 300,000 views on it. And so then a lot of the interviews and things started rolling in. But if you go on YouTube and write, search for my name, you might come up with a couple, maybe 2-3 videos. And that one will come up only because like people keep uploading it. They're like uploading it in Russian and
Right.
Praise you to Allah.
But if you go on Rumble and do a search, you'll come up with 6 pages of stuff that, different talks, interviews like this and whatnot that I've done. So I'm still highly, highly censored on YouTube.
Got it.
And so the answer is you can go and do the talk, but usually I found that all our legislators are bought on both sides of the aisle. And some of them are nicer, some of them listen, some of them even say they're on your side. But they're bought. They don't feel they have the power or whatever, or they don't understand how urgent the need is to do anything outside of a couple people like Rand Paul at the national level. There's a few people who are very much standing out. I've talked to them. For instance, I'm friends with a couple that had triplets. They were extremely hesitant to inoculate, so they thought we're just going to do one at a time. They gave all 3 of their triplets 1 inoculation. Within 48 hours, all 3 of them regressed into autism.
Wow.
Okay.
So can you say that again, Sister Dr. Parks? I don't think we really internalized that.
They had 3. They still have 3 triplets, 2 boys and a girl. And after that inoculation, all 3 of them within 48 hours. One started within 12 hours. And the last one to actually regress into autism is the one that has been recovered the most. The other 2 are still very severely autistic. That batch, someone finally found the information on that batch of inoculation was actually contaminated, but they asked to have a report filed. It was never filed. Now I think those children are probably 16. It's destroying the parents' health. The chronic care that they have to give. They have tried everything. I spent 4 hours asking, what have you done? What have you tried? What worked? What didn't? How did it work? Trying to figure out how to help them have some quality of life. And so I went to the U.S., our senators, our Michigan senators, at that time, Debbie Stabenow and what was the other guy? Gary Peters, I think his name was. And then our other legislators too at the national level. And I took them with me. They shared their story. I shared the science, and the people who listened to us, they blanched. They knew they're going to change, but nothing was done because it's the money that's funding it that no one is willing to give up, even if they personally listen to you.
Wow. Family, like this is very real, and again, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture, that's more than just a moniker, a catchy phrase. We're striving to give our people and all those who will watch and listen something that will increase our quality of life, something that will allow for us to understand how important it is to not just be Black in STEM, but to understand that Black is STEM. And the more we understand STEM, the more we really understand ourselves and are able to really exact real change. So at this time, we're a bit after our halfway point, family. We want to get into what we like to call our commercial break, talk about some of what we're doing personally, and then get ready to land this plane. Of course, there's going to be multiple parts to this, family, so stay locked in with us. But now we want to transition to our final call newspaper. So let's bring that up.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call digital edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Peace. This is Naya Muhammad, a future architect, and you're watching The STEM Files.
And now the latest issue of the Final Call newspaper is Volume 43, number 31, Public School Setbacks. It has been nearly 70 years since the Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision dismantled segregation between Black and white students in public schools. But are Black students, teachers, and administrators doing any better? To see page 5. Family, this is the Final Call newspaper, a message dedicated to the resurrection of the Black man and woman in America and the world. This is that good news you can use, Black owned and operated for the whole of humanity if we would but understand and take heed. If you want to get your physical edition and are in the Atlanta or Philadelphia areas or the Richmond area, the Greensboro, North Carolina area, tap in with myself, our bro Street Cardi, our sister, Dr. Joy, the G Mechanic, and also go to finalcalldigital.com to get your digital subscription so that you can read it on your phone, laptop, or other device. We got to really talk about our schools, family. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad calls the public school system of this world the killing fields and worked hard to set up a still thriving school system called Muhammad University of Islam, which not only has universities but also affiliate schools as well. Whether he said you can also have a school under a tree if you so desire. So whether this is online, in person, in a house, in a warehouse or whatever, we need to start educating our own. So, family, that Final Call newspaper, good news you can use. Additionally, as we mentioned before, we have our own personal ventures as the trio here, and we'll go into that very briefly. Sister Dr. Joy, what you got for us?
Thank you, Tula. Well, I am an acupuncturist. I own and operate a mobile acupuncture clinic here in Greensboro. We do cupping, we do Japanese shiatsu, we do community style acupuncture, we do herbal medicine. So I also offer 30-minute free consultations. If you go to my website, it's www.earthworksacu.org, or you can find me on Instagram at the same at earthworksacu.
All praise is due to Allah. As for myself, again, Jabril Engineer, I am a part owner and a consultant for New Educational Paradigm Consultants. This is my family's academic consultancy where we specialize in K-12 tutoring and academic support in reading, language arts, writing, math, science, study skills, SAT prep, etc. My specialty is math of more or less all levels from early primary school through college education. We do virtual and group appointments. For more information, you can call 267-312-3808 or 267-271-8197. Get that help for yourself, your students, so that we can grow in our prowess across these different disciplines and be able to build our nation. Lastly, certainly not least, our bro Tariq Cardiac. He has CPR and first aid training tour. He and a fellow brother Tariq are serving the Maryland, DC, Virginia, and Carolina areas. To book a session with our brother, go to Tariq CPR first aid at gmail.com. That's Tariq CPR first aid at gmail.com, or tap in with him on IG at Tariq Cardet. This is a life-saving skill or series of skills, families, and we're in a time that we need it now more than ever. Thank you. So let's get back into it. Since Dr. Joy, I know bro has some more questions. Let's get into those. But beforehand, we want to actually talk about um, your business, this Dr. Parks. Can you please tell us about what's your business? What does it do? And then we want to talk a little bit more about the other things we have as well. So let's get into that.
Yeah, I find it interesting that your business as well has new paradigms in it, as mine is new health paradigms. And so, really, what I do is I do science education, trying to bring complex science to the layperson. If you, want to get pregnant, you might have to do in vitro. What is that even? What if you need a stem cell transplant? What is that? Like people do, like the complexity of the science, all the biologics, like almost all of the medications now are biologics. They're antibodies. People do not understand the technology that they're being asked to make decisions about for their body. So a lot of what I do is education. But for me personal, part of the education that I want to do is to explain that the paradigm that we have going on now, using petrochemicals to interfere with different systems, it is not a God-given, a love-driven paradigm. We really need to support the majesty and the intricate design of the body as it is designed. And that is really not how health is really looked at. And so, we know that the metaphysical and the energetic plays such a huge role. And so Dr. Joy and I have had conversations about that. And so I really want to educate people, but I also want to learn. Many times we have different healing traditions, but we're just beginning to validate the science. Or in some cases, the science has actually been validated, but people
Yes.
don't actually know about it. And
That's
so
right.
they have trouble making decisions about, is this like an actual thing, or if it helps, is it just the placebo effect? Which, I mean, okay, great. And so I actually want to see what's out there to validate and share that with people and explain that, as well as possibly move forward with more experimentation or more validation of healing methods, such as I think energy healing. There's a lot behind crystal healing. And people think that energy healing is some woo-woo thing. I'm like, you have a signal coming to your cell phone 24/7 that is sending it information that you're using, but you don't,
right. You don't question it.
Come on. Come on.
You actually receive information from its environment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's really interesting, and this is anecdotal, but apparently some of the Native American scouts for the U.S. Army had very long hair, and they had such amazing scouting abilities, and it seems like maybe they were actually using the electromagnetic field of the earth to navigate. And because, in the Army and stuff, you always shave your head, they actually got them to cut their hair, and they couldn't navigate as well.
That's right.
And so it's very possible, and people have talked about, this is a question I was going to have for you, Brother Jabrilliant, is about melanin is such an amazing material in its ability to absorb energy. And so, of course, melanin is also in our hair. And so many people think our hair is both on our body and on our head. It can receive energetic information. Now, some people might say that's woo-woo. Why not? Like, you got a chip in your cell phone that's receiving information. Why wouldn't you think it's receiving information? So, but to actually ask the right questions so we get the right answers. And so a lot of times you'll find when they want to misdirect you in science, and this is where I play a role, I look at papers and I say, they're asking the wrong questions here. They're misleading you to think that they're getting a different answer because they're asking a question that's playing with you. And it takes someone who knows the science to see where they're kind of leading you astray to make you think one thing, because they're asking a question and the answer they get makes you think something. But if you ask a different question, you have to ask an unbiased question for one, and they don't always do that. But and so to look at different papers, and I will tell you, this is what they actually ask in lay people's terms, and this is what they actually got as an answer, instead of, like, sometimes they use all this scientific mumbo jumbo to try to mislead you.
That's right. Sometimes
like telling you the truth, right? And so to be able to cut through that and say, here's the paper you need, and here's why it shows this, and here's why this one, when they try to destroy hydroxychloroquine using supposedly science. And if you looked at the paper and you knew what you were talking about, you could very quickly see what they were trying to do. But the average person is like, I don't know, science, right? Got to believe the science. And no, you have to understand the science. And if you can't, you need to have someone that you can believe that does understand the science.
Right.
Well, you just hit so many. I'm already thinking about Dr. Joy. I'm thinking about the part 2, part 3. I have so
Please,
many
absolutely.
questions.
There's still some stuff I have to say about the biological warfare that's actually pretty relevant. So I know we
Absolutely,
have time.
absolutely. We will. So listen, like I said, this is your platform. We will definitely bring you back. We'll work the schedule out because we knew like an hour was not going to contain everything that anybody wanted to say. We did want to drill back as you were talking about picking up signaling and everything too. We really wanted to unpack transmission a bit more as it pertains to your testimony. So, what is transmission in the context of a inoculation, and particularly the ones that we were given, saying that they would reduce or attenuate that?
Okay, so the screen doesn't show me yet. I don't know why it still says what is transmission on it, but I'll keep on going.
Yes, ma'am.
So basically, let's talk about a natural virus. When your body sees a natural virus, what happens is it mounts an immune response. And after 2 or 3 weeks, you are immune, right? And what that means in terms of a respiratory virus is you actually have immune cells in your nose and throat that are looking for that virus. And if they see either the virus again, or if the virus makes it into a cell and the cell starts making virus, they are quickly going to make antibodies that neutralize that virus or send T cells to destroy those virally infected cells very, very quickly. So quickly, you may not ever get ill at all, or if you do, it's going to be very minorly. This is what we call natural immunity. And we've known it's always been superior. There's never been any question about that. There's never been any doubt about that. The only reason they're raising doubt about that is to push a product. Because the only reason for inoculations were the idea that if something is so severe, you don't want to, possibly, get really sick instead, in order to generate immunity, right? It was always still a given that natural immunity is superior.
Right.
However, so many of the first inoculations were actually live viruses. So they actually gave you some of this more natural immunity, not maybe completely as strong as a natural immunity because they were weakened viruses, but you still got that. And that's still true of like the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, the chicken pox, right? So there are still some of those, but most of the inoculations are not that. And this one is not that. And what most people don't realize is most inoculations protect from 2 months to 2 years.
Come on.
They're thinking they've got some lifetime protection and like 2 months later, and isn't that what we saw with these? If you look at the data, after 2 months, your immunity is tanking, and by 4 months, you have negative protection. Protection. You're actually more likely to get it because it's compromising your immune system.
Right.
Give me the booster, Doc. Give me the booster.
And for all of the inoculations across the board, they've proven that boosters do not work. That is a marketing campaign to try to make you feel better about it. Boosters do not work. And most inoculations give immunity from 2 months to 2 years. And then, you're on your own. So if you're going to get, say, inoculation for meningitis, which is a very severe disease, and you're going to give it when someone's in 7th grade, well, by the time they get to college, their highest risk factor, there's no immunity left for that if it works at all, which is another question that I'm not going to get into here. So it's just about the lies that they're telling. So when you see a virus in your nose and throat, you develop that mucosal immunity, which I testified about, right? And it attacks it right away and destroys it. When you put something in your arm, it is not activating that mucosal immunity. It's going in the wrong way, right? It's going into your blood and it's doing weird things, and it's just not the same as you seeing that virus in your nose and throat and developing mucosal immunity. So you don't have any mucosal immunity at all. In fact, if anything, they found that the people who are inoculated made more of the virus in their nose and throat. And so they are actually spreading the virus more. They do not make mucosal immunity. The thing is, there are dozens and dozens of papers, if not more, on this issue. So the virologist, the inoculationologist, all of the immunologists, they all know of this issue. And in fact, Fauci is an author on a paper that was just released last year about how it's really hard to make inoculations for respiratory viruses. And one of the problems being is they don't produce mucosal immunity. So he knew the entire time, right? All of these people at the upper level knew. Now, I do want to say, and one of the reasons I talked about my degree, most of your doctors don't understand gene therapy. They don't understand a lot of these things. They're just taking stuff based on what they've been told and saying, this is a colleague, they got their education, they're respected in their field. Why would they lie to me? Right? That's what they're doing. They don't understand experimental gene therapy. They don't understand the high level immunology. And maybe there are some things they should understand, but they're like willing to set that aside to go along to get along.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so they're the ones we really need to educate, because my degree is a very advanced level degree, and it's not something that most doctors really understand at all. And they may not even understand how much they don't understand.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sister Dr. Joy, I'm gonna allow you to land the plane again. So much family. Can I get some black fists in the chat if you have enjoyed this medical exegesis, this chemical exegesis that you've received on our platform this evening? I need some black fists in the comments. Thank y'all so much. Sister Dr. Joy, come on and take us home, please.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Dr. Christina, always a pleasure talking with you, working with you. All praises due to Allah that you are in the nation of Islam and that we are receiving the truth this evening from you. Thank you so much. I really, hopefully we can have you back as soon as we can. We'll chat offline and see what your schedule permits. For all intent and purpose, though, I'd also love to hear about prevention. We're in this biological warfare problem. So what does the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan even say, about things like the Navy bean? The Navy bean has been known to fight off radiation. So is there something comparable that we can start, doing or have been doing with how to eat to live? We have yet to unpack anything speaking on what can we do in a time of war that will help us to succeed, survive, and thrive. So I would love to hear.
That is absolutely my passion. First, people need to really understand the depth and the breadth of the problem and why we have been given a solution and why it is so important to implement. But what I also like to do is really scaffold that knowledge so people aren't doing something just because they've been told to do it, right? Mm-hmm. When you understand some of the benefits of fasting, when you understand how to reset the immune system from some of this damage, how to reduce inflammation, what the key issues are, and how, the science shows that this does this, this does this. And I know all of us cheat, right? Like we're human. But like when I'm about to like cheat or something or eat some sugar when I know I'm not supposed to or something, and I go, do you know what that's doing to your immune system? Do you know what I mean? And I know the benefits of actually not cheating, of giving my body that extra time to reduce inflammation. And I think, do you want this momentary, joy or whatever, pleasure, or do you want to remain young and actually not have your joints hurt? And so when you actually tell what the actual health benefits are going to be doing and what this is doing at the cellular level, I think it's really such an encouragement. And we also have to understand the principles so that when we come to, because we have busy schedules, like a lot of us are trying to juggle a lot of things. And they're like, well, if I can't eat between 4 and 6, when should I eat? And what should I eat? And, if I'm working out, should I take a protein shake? And there's a lot of different questions, right? And so to give you the principles that you can use to actually answer those questions in a way that's going to benefit your health and scaffold you into the optimal place where you can get.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you, Sister Dr. Parks, so much for your time, for your energy, for your sincerity and authenticity. I learned a lot, and I'm going to have to rewatch this several times. I'll speak for all of us here that we love you, we support you, we appreciate you, and this is your home. And anything that we can do to help move the mission forward and work together to do our part, we will. So family, listen, this has been another cracking open of the STEM files with your TSF Trio, Tariq Cardiac, Jabrilian Engineer, and the Chi Mechanic. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Tariq Cardiac, at Jabrilian_Engineer, and at the Chi Mechanic, and at the STEM Files on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Family, for those who don't know, I know in Nation of Islam, we're about to enter a 3-day fast. We're going to rejuvenate our immune system, and everything as well. So we're right on time. Until next time, family, we love you. We appreciate you. Remember, we are not simply Black in STEM, but Black is STEM. Until next time, family, love you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
You believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science.